Hello, happy Thursday, founders. Welcome to another exciting session with BTFS. Of course, we're going to let a few more founders come on in, and then we will kick it off in about 4 minutes.
To be precise, 4.
Right.
Not 5.
As always, feel free to drop your businesses and your names and say hi in the chat so that Christine can get to know your businesses a little bit as we're waiting and folks are joining. Hey, Janelle, congratulations. By the way,
thank
found
you so much.
feel free to come off of chat during this or come off of mute during the session. We want this to be really conversational. So if a question comes up, feel free to raise your hand. If you're not in a place where you can ask the question directly, drop it in chat and Blake will bring it to Christine at conversational break. But if there are questions that you want to ask of our guest today, we definitely welcome them.
Hello, everyone.
They're coming in quick. They're coming in quick. We have a great
Love it.
now. Yes.
Hi, Christine. This is Camille from Ceasefire. I just wanted to say that I did a summer research experience at Western Michigan University. I just saw that you went there. Kalamazoo,
Wow.
Michigan. This was
Small
about
world. I don't often meet people who even know where Western Michigan University is.
I know the feeling because I went to college about like 45 minutes south of Kalamazoo. So no one really knows like the schools in that area. So I understand the feeling. So cool.
Oh, great to meet you. Are you from Michigan originally?
No, I'm actually from Long Island, New
Oh.
York, and I just went to college out there, and I had studied chemistry and had done some research my sophomore summer at Western Michigan University with with a couple of professors there. So yeah, it's a great school. Yeah.
Well, I went there a long time ago. I grew up in Michigan, so
Oh, awesome. Wow. Such a small world. Nice to meet you.
me too. What school did you go to? What town was it?
It was in Berrien Springs, so just
sure.
around Benton Harbor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
St. Joe. We used to
Yeah,
go
exactly.
to
St.
Joe a
Joe.
lot for little day trips.
Yes. What about you? Where are you from?
Detroit area. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome.
Born and raised, but left when I was 16 and have not been back.
I know
For
how.
visits only. Yeah, family there. So
Wow. So nice to
at
connect.
heart. I went right after college. I went to New York City. Had an
Concrete
amazing
jungle.
life and career in New York for many, many years before relocating to California.
Awesome.
Well, it is 4:05, so we are going to kick it off. Founders, we are so excited to welcome Christine Greany today, who is going to be leading us in a absolutely fantastic discussion that I think that all of us can benefit from. So as Jenny has said earlier, if you missed it, we love to keep these conversational, interactive. So please feel free to hop in with any questions you may have. This is free flowing. Of course, me and Christine will be going back and forth, but if there's anything you want to interject with, ask, comment on, please do. We welcome it. You all know how we roll over here. So, Christine, we would love for you to introduce yourself to the studio. I know we have your slides ready that I think Jenny is going to queue up for us.
Yep, I just want to say hello to everybody. I'm really thrilled to be here and meet all of you, and look forward to hopefully getting to know a lot of you over the coming months and hear your stories. But let me just start. I'm going to start with just a few slides that to tell you about me and some of the services that I think I can bring to the Founders Studio. And then we'll hop into a sort of fireside chat style. And again, feel free to interject once we're chatting. So investor relations, it can be a pretty big, broad term. I have more than 25 years of experience working with a lot of companies under, the consumer umbrella, many different sectors. Beauty, health, and wellness is one of the areas where I'm really specializing a lot right now. My background has principally been working with companies that are already public. So I did that for quite a long time, and I still do that today. And that's sort of my, the heart of what I do. But over the years, along the way, and more recently in the last sort of 3 to 5 years, I've been helping private companies with their form of investor relations, which is how do I think about this business idea and really get it into a place where the idea and the market and the financials and growth strategy and all these key elements are really all live in one fabulous place, which is your business plan. A lot of founders have these incredible ideas, and they're really smart business people with tons of experience in different areas, but how many people have ever written a business plan? It can be a sort of formidable task. So writing is really one of the areas where I thrive. For my public company clients, I write their speeches and do their presentations and speak to investors on their behalf and really help them with like messaging and positioning and key talking points. So I love to write, and I've done a lot of business plan writing. And then also, in addition to sort of the bullet points you see here about the things I do on the public company side, in addition to actually writing plans, it's helping founders, get ready to spend time talking to investors, honing your pitch, doing mock Q&A sessions, creating those crisp, sharp talking points that are your, home base when you're meeting with investors. And I actually most recently became a co-founder in a startup myself. So, and it is in the beauty space. We're still in stealth mode. We're just about to go out in the first quarter and try to raise capital for ourselves. And this is a company in the textured hair space. And you might be looking at my hair and saying, how could she know about textured hair? But I actually, one of our founders is an expert in and a celebrity stylist in the textured hair space. But I actually have textured hair. I have naturally curly hair that is just out of control at all times. I've tried to embrace it and wear it curly, and I have never in all my years figured out how to master that. So if anybody here has tips for me or product that you have created that can help me manage it and not have to blow dry it straight every day, I am in. So, and I put at the bottom of the slide just logos of some of the companies that I've worked with over the years. And Jenny, if you want to flip to the next slide, this is a document that Jenny and Blake will provide for you. So, no need to take notes or write things down from this. You'll have this after the meeting, but this just outlines some of the services and ways that I can think of that I can help some of the founders. And as I said, creating a compelling business plan from start to finish, or if you already have a business plan, maybe really helping you bring that to life and stress testing it and scrutinizing it and editing it for you and really helping you make it the best it can possibly be, and looking at it through an investor facing lens, so that you're ready to go out and raise capital. And then, helping you with, I spend a lot of time coaching and how to approach investors. I spend a ton of time talking to prospective investors as part of my day job. So I really understand what they're looking for, what the holes are that they poke, and how they scrutinize things, so that we can really make sure that you're ready with, your speaker notes, potential questions you might get, how are you going to answer them, and really spend a lot of time rehearsing and honing the pitch. I don't know, for me personally, I feel like when people don't prepare, they just don't have the confidence. And when you go into these meetings, as many of you know, you've already been out there in the trenches doing this, you get one chance and you have to be your best and you have to be prepared, because the questions can be tough. Okay, so the next slide is just, I think we talked about preparing for investor meetings, but also in addition to all of this, kind of business plan, capital raising element, I also, as I said at the outset, I love to write. I really thrive when I'm writing. And so, I can, if you need help with press releases to make announcements about your business, do you have investors and you have to update them monthly or quarterly, writing those letters, you probably have to update your board regularly. Also helping you with writing website content. Any sort of form of writing, I've done it and I love to do it. So with that, maybe we can start our fireside chat. Blake, I think you're on mute.
Was talking to the computer. Yep, was talking to, it's a Thursday that feels like a Friday. Bear with me, everybody. But so Christine, we're gonna dive right in because I know that our founders really want to get to the nitty-gritty. So I love if you could highlight what are some key considerations that really should be top of mind for founders who are looking specifically to raise capital.
Sure. Well, I think, at a high level, it's important to sort of step back and say, what is my vision here? What is my end goal? Do I want to create a small family business and things are a little bit low key and not so fast paced? Do I want a fast growth business with, where I see runway for just continuous expansion? Is my ultimate exit strategy to build a very, a healthy, thriving business and get acquired by a big company, or ultimately do an initial public offering? What's the trajectory? How much risk do I want to have? What does the path to profitability potentially look like? If you think about different industries where you're all in consumer, that's a little bit different, but like in the biotech industry, for example, those are businesses where you need a lot of capital and you need continuous capital, and it takes many, many years before you actually have a product and you could have a hope of becoming profitable, right? So you have to think about what the path to profitability might look like, and that will help you sort of back into how much capital do I need ultimately along the way? How much do I need initially, of course, to get going? But really, I think it's important to also think about the needs of the business over time. A lot of businesses can become self-funding very quickly. So that's important. And then, I would think about things like, what kind of partners do I want to have? We want to have partners in life who are aligned with our values and our goals and you want people that really buy into your strategic plan. So you kind of think about who you partner with in life already and what they stand for and what, your goals and vision and values are. And then, step back from that and say, gee, do I have a network of friends and family and colleagues who could be resources for me? Maybe they would want to invest in my business, or maybe they can connect me with somebody who would. Those are things to think about. And then ultimately, if you are going to go out and maybe approach venture capitalists and people like that, you should really need to have a sound idea about how much equity you might be willing to give up, what kind of control you want to maintain. I think we're all probably familiar with the famous, Facebook scenario where, Mark Zuckerberg managed to take the company public and maintain, majority control and voting rights and, a lot of things that aren't typical in a public company situation. So what you want, and answering those questions will help you ultimately choose the right partners.
And getting a little bit more granular, I'm happy you mentioned that. How do founders know when they are ready to approach investors?
Sure. Well, I think it's a couple of things. One, you have a compelling business plan, right, in place that articulates the market opportunity you see. What are the proof points, market proof points, what's your operating model, your growth strategy, launch plans, all of it. So having that compelling business plan ready. And then even more importantly, having a really good working model, financial model, and a deep understanding of the key inputs and the drivers. You have to be so well versed on your financial model, because that's the piece that investors, they may love your idea all day long, but they really need to understand how that translates to revenue and growth and ultimately profitability. And most venture capitalists will want to see some sort of proof of concept before they invest. So that's another key consideration is, if you don't have proof of concept and you just have this idea, there are, a lot of creative ways that people can try to self-fund at the very beginning, at least to establish a proof of concept. And that could be borrowing money, line of credit, savings, family, friends, crowdsourcing. I'm sure a lot of you have been living through this and dealing with it. And it's, and one other thing I would mention is also just, before you approach investors, in addition to having your, business plan and your financial model really dialed in, an experienced team is equally important, because investors are buying the team in a startup more than anything else. And good advisors who have expertise in your sector, also very important. They can really provide a lot of guidance and tremendous insight along the way.
And with your expertise, how specifically can you help our founders prepare for these types of investor meetings?
Well, there's a lot of preparation that needs to happen before you sit across the table from a potential investor. I think that can feel intimidating to anybody, regardless of, what your business pedigree looks like. But this is an exciting time for founders. And I think, embrace that. And first and foremost, let your energy and your passion and your excitement and your personality really shine through, and let investors see how energized you are to be in the founder's seat. It's an incredibly exciting time. And, beyond that, with that all being said, I think that I can, what I bring to the table is that coaching, honing the messaging, creating key talking points that are your home base when you're in meetings, preparing that list of really tough questions and some easy ones, but in developing the answers together, and then doing mock Q&A sessions, and me putting on the investor hat and drilling you with questions and practicing those answers.
I'm going to be a Budinsky here, Christine. I just wanted to say that your video is getting a little washed out because of the sunburst behind you. I don't know if you
Thank
can rotate to a side or if you want to try. Oh, that is
move.
way better. Okay. I just want people to be able to see you.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna move and have a seat. Okay,
And
here I
Christine,
am.
you talked about it's an exciting. Perfect. You mentioned that it is an exciting time for founders. Can you share what the investor sentiment is like in the current marketplace?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think we all know from reading the headlines, the markets have been volatile. A lot of businesses, both new and mature businesses, have been struggling in this recessionary environment when consumer purchasing behavior is, really, quite frankly, very inconsistent. But investors are still looking for great ideas. They're just much more scrutinizing and selective about where they're investing. So, I think I've kind of mentioned this already, but they're really going to do a deep dive into your concept. They need to understand the market, the existing players, and they're going to want to feel confident in your team and feel comfortable that you really have the chops, to run a business once it gets off the ground. So again, just circling back to what I said a moment ago, the team and the advisory board with expertise in your area will really help instill confidence.
And one of the biggest issues that founders face is the prospect of getting others to believe in your dream can feel intimidating. Can you share some positive and negative experiences that you've had?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, having been in this seat myself in recent years as I've launched my own concept, I have had both positive and negative experiences. So, when you finish your plan and you feel like it's ready, and you tick and tie your financial model and decide that, like, okay, we're going for it. We're going to start the outreach. It's incredibly exciting. And of course, it can be very daunting if you've never been down this path. We all, I think, have those conversations with ourselves sometimes when we're embarking on something new and significant like this. You sort of say, wow, am I doing this? Can I really do this? And I think the answer is yes. Absolutely. Of course we can. And the challenge makes it exciting. The challenge is what makes it rewarding in the end and along the way, really, regardless of the outcome. I think it's important to manage your own expectations. When you decide to start your own business, you all knew that it would be a ton of work, a huge learning experience, and overall an incredible journey. I imagine every one of you on this phone would say that the journey is amazing. So with every meeting and every kind of step along the way, I think that we're learning. And the insights that we get in those investor meetings, when you hear the types of questions they ask, when you see their responses to your answers and the follow-up questions, and then maybe you get a no, thank you, we're going to pass. These are the reasons we're not interested. That just informs what we do next and going forward. So embrace it. We have to celebrate every meeting, regardless of the outcome. With my concept that we launched, or didn't launch yet, excuse me, but we got together 3-4 years ago and sat down and said, this is what we're going to do. We spent a long time creating the concept in our minds, putting it on paper, bringing it to life in a business plan. We had so much fun along the way. And then in 2019, we decided to go out and approach investors, and we had a lot of interest, a lot of receptivity, but we didn't get any yeses. What we got in that initial outreach was, we love this concept. we would like to see proof of concept. So that happened, and just before the pandemic hit. And when the pandemic hit, we just had to hit the pause button. And we all sort of said, you know, look, all the universe is sending us a signal. Things always work out the way they should. It would have been a disaster if we had launched in the latter part of 2019 and then had the pandemic hit us and shut us down. So we just took it as a sign, and we paused for a little while. There were some other things happening that really made it make sense to pause. And now we are back with a vengeance. It is so exciting. Kendra is on our board, and which is how I came to know all of you today. So it's, you know, we're recharged, we are ready, and we're going to go out and try to raise capital. And now we have Kendra on our board. So we feel like getting those no's, it was okay. We understood we needed proof of concept. So we had to go back to the drawing board and say, well, how can we establish proof of concept without raising money? Chicken and the egg, right? So we did some creative things, and we are off to the races. Very exciting.
We love it. And it looks like we have a question from Wendy. So Wendy, if you want to come off mute, feel free to ask your question.
Okay, great. I'm in my onesie today, so I would come off camera, but I mean, I can. It's fine. It's fine.
I'd love to see your onesie. Fabulous.
It's a onesie Thursday today.
Okay.
Well, thank you. This is super. You know, everyone has busy days, but I just try to be intentional about stopping and pausing, and you know, joining this, because my business partner and I, kind of similar. We had the concept in 2013, didn't meet our biochemist till 2016, and got ready to come to market in 2019 and really go for it in 2020. And then the pandemic was there. We're both employed entrepreneurs, both executives in our jobs. And so it was a little difficult. One of the things that I won't say it's hurting us, but it's a challenge that I'm trying to figure through is 2020 was a bit of an anomaly for a lot of Black-owned businesses. So when I looked at our sales from the top of 2020, which my aspirations were to sell 1 or 2 tubes of our product a day, like we have great, sorry, I was making breakfast in here too, and that is my timer before I burn everything. But, you know, we started off the year just like I would say any new business would, slow sales, getting awareness. We're in an emerging market. We're in intimate skincare that requires a lot of information. And so we were a slow start. And then George Floyd was murdered, and there was Blackout Tuesday on June 2nd. So we went from having very, very nominal, very low sales to skyrocket, simply because people, and I'll be specific, mostly non-Black folks, mostly white folks, were wanting to be a part of the movement. And Blackout Tuesday was an initiative that was started by the music industry with really no definition. And so people kind of made it what they thought it should be throughout that day and throughout the weeks to come. And so it became, let's support Black-owned businesses. So from social media exchanges to sales, they were all coming. And what we realized is that, as exciting as it was and super appreciative, is that it started to dawn on me very quickly, like, oh, this might not be sustainable. This could be just for the moment. And I started to talk to other Black business owners. Listen, some people soared. Some people got major investors during that time. Several of my friends did $1 million investors, and that was great. But for us being new, it was a little weird. Also, to be benefiting off of the murder of another, you know, Black person was weird. So all that to say, our sales were great for a first-year business. And then you can immediately see, probably top of 2021, they started to wane, probably by March. And we sold less in 2021. We sold about the same in 2022. And I do believe for a business that's, you know, we're looking for funding now, but like, I guess the point is, can we be honest and tell that story about why our sales in this year were here and why they dipped? I just don't believe that 2020 was a true snapshot of our growth as a business. And I'm just hoping that investors, and I want to be blatantly honest, And, I think a lot of people, especially people that were buying because they wanted to be a part of the movement, bought us, said, great, I did something good, and threw us in a corner. Never used the product, never planned to use the product, but their support was the purchase. So I guess and my question would be, do you suggest in doing what I'm thinking in terms of being very honest with the investors when they look at the numbers and why this happened? Yeah,
Well, of
I think
course,
that's it.
yes, transparency is critical, always, or you won't have credibility. So investors are very used to seeing businesses that had the COVID spike. And a lot of companies talk about, especially in the public arena, we talk about how current results compare to pre-COVID levels. Because the COVID, the COVID year of 20 and partially 2021, those were unusual for companies, whether it was a spike or a significant decline. So investors are very used to that, and absolutely always be transparent, because you need to have credibility before, first and foremost. I hope that's helpful.
Thank you very much. It was.
Perfect. So we will keep on with the conversation. So Christine, how should founders think about valuation and structuring a capital raise? And how do they balance maintaining raising money and balancing control?
Yeah, sure. And I sort of alluded to that at the very beginning when I talked about key considerations. Yeah, you really need to know how much control you want to maintain. But it starts with some of those big picture items, like what are your goals? What's your vision? How rapid do you think the growth trajectory will be? How much capital do you think you'll need over the first, say, 3 to 5 years, for example? Because again, a company that can largely be self-funding, once you get started, if you can fund your growth along the way, wow, great position to be in, right? And that's, a lot of businesses operate that way. But if you think you're going to need to keep going back and raising more capital, you have to keep in mind, every time you go out and bring in new money, you're diluting yourself down, right? Your ownership level down. So those are important considerations. And once you get to that stage, your legal counsel and other advisors are going to help you negotiate a structure that really makes sure all parties are, highly motivated and feel like they've entered into sort of a winning partnership. We have to, again, in our lives across the board, right? We always want to align ourselves with people that we feel good about and respect. And look, I've done investor relations for, I've been in this kind of client service business for 25 plus years. Not everybody was nice along the way. And I'm thankful that now, after all these years, now that I'm old, I can be more selective about who I work with. And I'm really choosy about saying yes to working with clients, because, we all want to feel motivated and energized by what we're doing. And if you have the right partners, you're going to feel good about your agreement. But very important, valuations. I think, probably many of you know that valuations in the beauty industry right now are sort of in the 3 to 5x, right? So again, your legal counsel and other advisors like the Founders Studio, Brain Trust, or someone like me can really help you navigate those waters when you get to that point. It's tricky.
And what are some of the pitfalls of these investor meetings that you've seen?
Oh, I've been in meetings where people weren't prepared on the financials, and I stressed that earlier in our session, how important that is. Look, it's not uncommon for a founder who is closer, to be closer to the operations side and not so in the weeds on the numbers. I mean, look, not everybody's a CFO, right? Or a financial expert. But it's really, to the extent that you can, all of the team members, but especially the founder or founders, if there's more than one of you, can demonstrate that you have a very strong working knowledge of the model and the major inputs, that is, really goes a long way. So for example, I've been in a meeting where somebody said, well, what are the primary uses of cash going to be? And it didn't roll off the founder's tongue, right? They just didn't have that at the ready. So yeah, and that was a little bit awkward. Somebody jumped in and saved them, which is good. But, and then the other thing I think where I've seen, things get confusing, or maybe there was a gray area when asked about the team and who's wearing which hats, right? So you have to be very clear, because look, we all know in startups, people wear every hat. Everybody's doing everything. It's like it takes a village. So you've built your team. Be really clear about who brings what expertise to the table and what their role will be. Because as I said earlier, investors are buying into the team as much as anything else, if not more.
And it looks like we have a question from Sherelle. So you could go ahead, Sherelle.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Christine. Thank you for being here today. Really great information. So I had a question about, you mentioned the current multiples. You mentioned 3 to 5 in the beauty industry today. But I have a question on that. So is it 3 to 5 for general beauty, or for textured hair care, or for Black-owned brands? The reason being, I've been hearing that it's more around the 5 to 10 because of the premium of Black-owned brands in terms of getting that 15% pledge that retailers are giving. Like there's actually a premium now on Black-owned brands. So 3 to 5 just sounds a little low.
It sound a little low. It could
Yes.
be. That's a generalization. So I think you're right.
Got it. All right, thank
Certainly,
you.
I do know of people being offered as much as 10x, but it's not necessarily the right deal and the best deal at the right time. So
Okay.
yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And then another question would be, so love the fact that you shared that, you were with the team in the trenches raising and or presenting to raise funds. And ultimately they wanted proof of concept. Due to your heavy experience, how did you keep the rationale up when I'm sure they expected someone of your expertise and others on the team to come through and secure funds? How was that experience, and how did you guys really keep your spirits high and thrive forward?
Well, I think all 4 of us are so passionate about our idea, and we know that there's a huge white space. There's such a need for this. Yeah, it's such an underserved market, and we've never wavered. Honestly, we've never felt like, oh, is this ever going to happen? We all know in our heart of hearts it's going to happen. We think we're going to rewrite history. And,
Awesome.
So, did we feel discouraged? I really know. It was like, let's just keep on trucking. We've got momentum. We're having conversations. Everyone we meet, whether it was a venture capitalist, a private equity person, attorneys, potential partners that we were trying to do deals with, everybody was so sort of showering us with the love and praise. So I think that kept us going. And then when the pandemic hit, it was easy to pause.
Yeah.
And now we're in, it's 2.0 now.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
So we will continue to dive right in. Christine, before we kind of wrap up and open it fully for questions, we'd love to end on a high note. So can you share one of your greatest success stories? Like, what is a fantastic story that you've seen that you can share with the founders that maybe they can hopefully try to emulate or mirror on their journey?
Yeah. Well, one company that I worked really closely with back in 2018 was it was just an idea. It was one of my former CEOs from my public company work who decided to launch this business with a partner who had expertise in the space. And, you know, he, of course, was a CEO in retail, so he knew how to operate businesses. And the two of them got together and he brought me in to help him write the business plan. And they only needed about $1 million. I mean, I know that to some people that sounds like a lot, but it wasn't a huge raise. It was, you know, an initial $1 million. And so I did the plan for them, and we went out and were able to raise the money. And also, but I think we ended up needing slightly less because we found a partner who could do the build out in exchange for equity. So, and that company is today thriving. It is called Candytopia. And some of you may be familiar with it. It pops up in different cities, Atlanta, New York, San Francisco, and it's sort of think museum of ice cream, but it's candy. It's an experiential museum, but it's all based on candy. Yeah, so that was fun.
We're all pretty familiar with
what?
Candytopia.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yes, I think. I mean, I think so. It's as you said. It's super familiar now. Candytopia.
Yeah, yeah. I know. So it's nice to be a part of. Was there at the beginning, building the deck from the ground up, saying who are we and how do we communicate this? Yeah, it was fun.
Well, as we kind of wrap up, founders, I want to completely open this up for questions. Again, you guys can feel free to just come off mute, or you guys can drop your questions in here and we'll be happy to read on your behalf if you're unable to come off mute for us right now. So whatever is easiest for you all. Please, any questions that you have for Christine, they are more than welcome.
Hi, I have a question, Christine. I'm Diane Austin, and I'm the co-founder of Coral Silox, and we're disrupting a healthcare disparity in the medical hair loss space, which is the lack of access to curly wigs for Black women experiencing medical hair loss. My co-founder and I, we're just beginning to educate ourselves on the VC space, and it's always been my impression that you needed more than a proof of concept when working with VCs. Like, they want to see like revenue and a certain amount of revenue. Is that not necessarily accurate?
Oh, I think it is. When I say proof of concept, I think if you have proof of concept, you're generating revenue. Yeah, but I don't think that there's a hard and I have not experienced that there's a hard and fast, like, minimum threshold of revenue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, I should have been more clear about that. I think proof of concept equals revenue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, it looks like we have a question from Yamina. She says, we are currently testing the waters in an investor crowdfunding round and need a lead investor. What is the best way to approach someone to be a lead investor who you don't have a relationship with?
Well, I would approach it in a couple of different ways. First, I would search and see if I could figure out, is there anybody who knows this person that I might know already, and try to backdoor it that way. Yeah, look at their connections on LinkedIn. Do you have any mutual connections with them? That kind of a thing. And then otherwise, if you need to approach somebody cold, I do it in an email. And that's, and I've done that a ton of times. Do your homework on their fund or who they are, what they've invested in historically, know that inside and out, because that'll help you craft your pitch email. Why are you approaching them? So you want to have a hook at the beginning of your email, right? And I think knowing knowing what they've invested in historically will help you figure out why they would be a good partner to you. And you can put that in your email pitch.
Perfect. All right. Perfect. Yamina said, thank you. And do
Yeah.
we have any other questions? You guys know you don't have to be shy with us. Throw them out there. Come off mute. You don't have to take your camera off. But if you have any questions, feel free. While we have an expert like Christine, we want to be sure that we are asking as many questions.
I did want to mention the 3 slides that I shared. You know, Jenny and Blake will make those available to everybody. My contact information is on there. And I'm, you know, like I said, thrilled to be here and open myself up to helping any and all of you. And so please, if you want to reach out to me, I'm happy to do a complimentary consultation and spend time with you and talk about what you're doing, where you have challenges and where you think you might need help. And then we can, you know, see if there might be a fit. But please, please reach out. I'd love to hear from you, and really excited to be part of the Founders Studio.
Hi, Christine. My name is Khadija Doso. I'm the founder of Doso Beauty. We're an e-commerce organic beauty supply company, selling everything from hypoallergenic hair extensions to organic skincare, hair care, and kids hair care as well too. My question is, as you're building your team, because that what you said about that stuck out to me. As you're building your team, what are some key components that you think investors are looking for on your team outside of a general advisory board or board of directors? From a internal team, what are some key stakeholders that you think that with the team or the investors are looking for?
Well, I think that they look to see, do people on the team have practical experience doing what you're trying to do? And, you know, maybe it's not exact, like maybe you have an e-commerce expert who doesn't have beauty experience, but maybe in an adjacent field, but they know how to run an e-commerce business. So yeah, it's just practical experience. Because if you have a team of, say, 3 people and you sit down with an investor and nobody has done this or has any sort of practical experience, that's going to be challenging for them.
Okay. So just to be clear about the question that you're saying is, for example, I'm an e-commerce beauty supply business. If I'm the only person on the team that has experience in e-commerce, then I need to find someone else that has e-com on my
Oh,
team.
no, I think you do have experience. You're the founder. I think that's great.
Okay.
You know, I think I mentioned in my startup, there are 4 of us, and we have 1 individual who is an expert and, you know, has a huge following in this space. But the rest of us have business experience that he doesn't. And what we've most recently decided to do before we go out and raise capital is actually bring in somebody who has, so our person has expertise with textured hair, but he does not have experience running a salon. Okay. So we're bringing in somebody who has that practical experience because we think that will bolster our pitch in our case.
Okay.
And help us, put us in a much more advantageous position when we're asking for capital.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Christine, as we close out, I would love for you to share with the founders, what are some other ways that you can aid and assist them outside of the capital raising process?
Oh, sure. Yep. Well, I did. I kind of probably glossed over it quickly on the slides, and it's on there, but you know, the business plan aspect. If you don't have a business plan, wow, I would love to help you create that. And if you do have a business plan, but you know, you don't really feel that you're, you know, ready to go out and try to get capital, I would love to help you make that business plan shine and stress test it and look at it through the lens of an investor and, you know, challenge aspects of it. And, you know, look, I could look at it and compliment you on it all day long, but that's, you don't need that. What you need is the tough love and, you know, what might be wrong with it or what's not good enough. Where do we need to enhance it? Or how do we streamline it and make it better? So that, and then, as I said, any sort of writing, you know, any sort of business writing, I would love to help.
Perfect. Well, it looks like we have one last question.
Great.
Oh, wait, where'd she go? Wait, I saw. Did we
Was
lose
it
her?
in the
Wait,
chat?
it was not in the chat. Oh, there she goes. Okay. Iso, you can come off of mute. Iso is the co-founder and CEO of this incredible wig brand parfait that we love here at BTFS.
Hi, yes, it's so good to meet you, and thank you so much for the time today. I was hoping to just get your take. I knew we talked a lot about fundraising today and kind of what those milestones are starting to look like in the macroeconomic environment that investors are really thinking about. So just a little bit of background. We were one of the, I want to say, lucky few who caught the definite wave after George Floyd and was able to raise quite a bit of capital. And so we're in a place where we're actually not getting like super hammered by consumers changing their purchasing behaviors. And so are pretty close to what would typically have been the next milestone to raise a Series A. But from what I've heard, and obviously it's just like minglings amongst other founders, is that the benchmarks have moved pretty significantly in terms of what people are looking for. And so a lot of people are thinking about extensions versus moving towards that until kind of this environment is stabilized a bit, or there's a little bit more confidence both on the consumer and investor side. So I was hoping to just get your take on whether or not you've seen that be kind of the strategy for most companies, especially in the beauty and consumer space, where some of these valuations are dropping pretty significantly. Or if there's still really a path forward to move forward, if you know the unit economics, the top line all actually align with what previously the environments were looking like when it comes to what that next round looks like. And so just getting a take on what the best, or how we should be thinking about that strategy, and what are some of the levers, even internally, if we wanted to move forward with one or the other, things that we could think about to help support that.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always a path forward. It's just you know, there are always investors out there, even in really tough macro climates, right? They're always looking for ideas. And in these tougher environments, yeah, well, to your point, right? Valuations have come down a little bit, but, you know, I almost compare it to, it depends on the needs of your business, and right timing is everything. So you have to evaluate it. Yeah, I would say go out and test the waters, get a temperature check and see what kind of valuation you might be able to command. You know, just because you meet with somebody and they offer you something, you certainly don't have to accept it if it doesn't feel like the right valuation at that time. But it's like, you know, I think about the mortgage situation, right? During the height of the pandemic, everybody was going bonkers because interest rates were so low and saying, oh, we've got to buy a house now, buy. And prices were skyrocketing and people were overpaying for houses because they could get such a low mortgage rate. But now, if you look at the flip side of where we are now, rates have gone up. And people are saying, oh my gosh, I mean, I don't want to buy a house now because mortgage rates are so high. Well, they were artificially low. Now they're sort of like, I mean, I think for decades, if you look back, 6%-ish is not an abnormal mortgage rate, right? They were artificially low and it just made the market go crazy. So now we have home prices coming down and higher mortgage rates. Well, like in the end, which way do you want to do it? Everybody has, you know, I personally would rather pay a lower price for a house and a higher mortgage rate. And so I think that it's just about timing and your capital needs ultimately.
Okay. That makes a ton of sense. Thank you so much.
Oh, and I'm
Christine,
not an economist by any stretch, but that's my, that's my take on the housing situation. I just think, if things got so out of control, the prices made it just things became unobtainable.
Do you feel like that was the market before? It was out of control, valuations are out of control, and everyone's bringing it back down to earth?
I don't know if I would say they're out of control in certain sectors. We certainly saw really inflated valuations in tech. I don't think that's the case in beauty. Do you? I mean, you're in the trenches, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think things got nuts on the beauty valuation front.
No.
well, Christine, we want to thank you so much for joining us today. You have been such a wealth of knowledge, such a wealth of information. Founders, as promised, you will be receiving the slides. So have no fear. You all will have Christine's contact, so you all can contact her. You all will be able to look over again Christine's incredible accolades so that you all can continue to work with her in the future. Christine, we want to thank you again. And founders, we wish you all a fantastic, fantastic weekend.
Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate your time. Great to
Thanks,
see everybody.
everybody.